So what's been going on, man?
Bro. Oh, not much. I did a 8,200 square foot one yesterday.
Wow.
$6 million property.
How long did that take?
All day. I actually had to go back today and finish it. I could have got it done in one day, but there was like so many people there and they were all talking and it just ate up time.
8,200. Yeah, you need a beer after that.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was beautiful house.
Man, well,
thanks.
Thanks for jumping on again. We got lots of good feedback from the first time we did this, and that was when, my production skills still aren't great, but that was when they were bad. And so I think now that we have the podcast and more viewership on the YouTube channel, that's why we're doing this again. So that's why it's there. There's a purpose for that thing.
Absolutely.
So thank you for doing it again. I think you mentioned you've had guys reach out to you after the first one, right?
Yeah. It seems to be laggy. Are we lagging on your end?
A little bit, but I think we're good now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've had I probably 10 plus guys that have reached just because they saw the video and liked, what was talked about and wanted. I actually spoke with a guy in Hawaii last night, and he's like, yeah, man, you just seem really approachable and everything like that. So I love to help people and share what little bit of knowledge I have. So,
and not bad to get your mug in different places and just get your name out there some more. So why the hell not? So
sure.
I'm glad we're doing it again, man. So for people that are just seeing this one, why don't you give us your little backstory, give us your little who you are, who is Daylan Whitney?
Well, if you're hearing some weird noise in the background, this is my daughter, Scarlett.
Hey.
She is a mountain of change, and she's going through it all right now.
Getting that money. I like it.
Right? You gotta start them young, man. Start them young. So I am Daylan. I'm just an average dude who started an inspection company, basically out of necessity for something to do. I was a youth pastor. I was coming to the end of that kind of season in my life, and my wife is a real estate agent, and I was hearing all of her frustrations and things like that, dealing with not just home inspectors, but scheduling and all of these different things that they have to do in order to make a deal happen. And so my brain is always churning and takes in all the information that I see around me, and I'm like, okay, how can I develop something that's better? And so hearing all of her conversations and frustrations and things like that, I was like, well, I have another buddy who's a home inspector as well, and thought, hey, I think I could probably lend something valuable to this field. And so my dog's here as well. This is Duke.
Yes.
So I said, hey, let's give this a shot. I was either going to do this or start a media company. And I realized that I am not the best at working when I'm at home. I will find something else to do.
Yeah, too much good stuff out there.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, that's, like doing something that's home-based is really not just at this point in my life. So I went the home inspection route, and it's been pretty phenomenal.
So you've been in business how long?
What, a year and I think 11 months or so.
Right.
Just shy of 2 years.
Okay.
Well, I should say this. I got my license in April. So I maybe like 4 or 5 months shy of 2 years.
And about how many inspections have you done?
As of today, I think I'm right at I want to say some thousand. This year alone, I'm at. I think when I counted the other day, I was at 500.
Which is insane. Which is
And
amazing.
I did for my first year, 400, like 420. So I'm thinking business year. Like, so if I go April to April, I'm anticipating maybe like 7, probably somewhere in there for my second year.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. For any of you new guys or younger inspectors that are listening, that's why we're having them on again, because there was so much good insight and kind of just digging into the process of being a new inspector. When you started, did you think to yourself, hey, like, what's your background in construction, building, stuff like that? Anything big there?
Nope. I got a little bit of lag. I missed out on that cold question.
What was your background in kind of the trades or construction prior to doing the youth pastor stuff?
Yeah, so I've kind of been in and out of multiple trades my whole life. I've done concrete work, I've done remodeling, I've done framing, flooring, a little bit. I've dabbled in just about everything. And then I've done water wells. I did that for like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like doing that, I did a lot of plumbing, electrical work, things like that. So, I've really had my hands in a lot of stuff basically my whole life, which was kind of what gave me the confidence really to say, I can go into this and actually sound as though I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Without all of the additional training that is required, at least in my state, to be a home inspector.
And where are you based out of, just for people to know?
Arizona, Northern Arizona.
Perfect. Was there any hesitations, for the guys that maybe are thinking about it, if anyone listens to this that is thinking about being a home inspector, was there any hesitations or reasons not to do it that you struggled with? Or was it just, hey, there's a need, it makes sense, go?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess the hesitation was just, there's like where I'm at, we're very heavily regulated. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so getting through that whole process was a little daunting. Because you're not making money. You're like home inspector. And then I go through the school, then I do all the parallel inspections, then I do, and then I take all that information and I fill out all the paperwork and I submit that to the state. And then it's like, okay, like now I got to figure out what to do with all this time that I have doing nothing else. And so, getting through that whole process was a little stressful. But I felt pretty confident in my ability to communicate what I wanted to bring to the community and do a good job. That was knowing that, like, hey, I'm the kind of guy that's going to start something and do it well and treat people good and offer something that I think is lacking. I don't know, maybe especially in this industry, guys, they come into this and if you know anything about being in the trades, they're rough and they're dudes that just kind of they go to work, they work hard, go home, crack open a beer at the end of the day and think about what they did. They're not out there being super friendly with people. It's kind of like, hey, here's your report. I did my job. Now leave me alone. So anyways, it's just kind of all those things.
You bring up a great point. And this, I think probably due partly to your success, is attributed to this, but Talk to me a little about what you think of like the new kind of model of home inspector. So it's like I classify you as one that can talk to people, that listens well, that is a good communicator, that maybe didn't swing a hammer for 30 years and just was used to just having tunnel vision. Talk about just kind of the impact of that and the benefit to everybody. I mean, it's a great thing, I imagine.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to be well-rounded, I suppose. It takes a lot of work. Luckily, I mean, most of mine just stems from good upbringing, I guess. My stepdad, he was very um, he was his one of his biggest things was never think that you know it all. Always be willing to learn something from somebody. Um, uh, do a good job. You know, like whatever you do, put 100% into it. And all of the things that I've done over my lifetime, and there's been many of them, but a lot of them were focused on service, the service industry. Whether that was, like I said, water wells, or I was the guy that went out and did the repairs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on office equipment for a number of years. So I was in offices with people, negotiating all those relationships, for a long time. So I've spent a lot of my working life in the service industry, which I think was a great primer for me coming into this and kind of shifting that mindset that a home inspector is, again, the carpenter that didn't want to swing a hammer anymore. So he came into this, and it's like, I did my job, now leave me alone. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people. I tell my clients at the end of every inspection that, I'm always available. If you have any questions, here's your report, but this is not the end of our relationship. I literally, right before this I just thought about this. Right before this, I had a client from 4 months ago call me and say, hey, they don't live here. They live in New York, and they bought a big house. And they're like, hey, we have a guy in there. He's doing some remodel work for us. And we're finding some issues that we'd like a second opinion on. And so they called me, and they want me to go over and check out some of this stuff for them, just for peace of mind. And I feel really good about that. That the my clients trust my knowledge enough to say, hey, you know what, like this handyman that I have over here telling us this, I want to make sure that I have somebody who maybe has a better understanding, or somebody that I trust, go over and say, yeah, this sounds good, or no, I would do it this way. So that makes me feel really good. But that's the kind of culture that I want to cultivate, not only with my clients, but also with my agents and everybody as well. So
and this is why I love having you on, is because like I'm literally thinking of the words you're using to describe why you're doing what you're doing, why you got into it in the first place. And it's not because, oh, I heard it was easy, I can make a ton of money, or, oh, hey, like, my neighbor said I should do, or whatever, there was a need for it. And then you said you like doing a good job, and you mentioned community, I think. You can't fake those things, right? And I worry that some guys are trying to become that, which you got to feel it. You got to enjoy what you're doing, right? And you got to enjoy interacting with people. What would you say to someone that maybe doesn't have a knack for that, kind of like you do?
I would say, I hate the term fake it till you make it, but there is truth to that. It takes work. It's not just, if you want to come out, if you want to start this and like be the new guy that people are willing to trust, it's going to take work. It's going to take you being outside of what you're comfortable with. You could probably come into this field and do a couple of inspections a week, and kind of do pretty easily. But if you want to be the guy that like really makes a good living, you want to be the guy that comes into this and I guess is able to accomplish maybe what, or you know, kind of follow in the path that I've gone, and be successful rather quickly. It's going to take work. It's going to take you reshaping who you are, how you handle people, how you communicate. That's the biggest thing, I think, is a lot of guys are, they're just not comfortable communicating with people. It's not that they're necessarily bad at it. They're just not comfortable with it. And the only way to become comfortable with something is, and so that it just takes work. It takes you forcing yourself to be outside of what you're comfortable with. That was something I really wanted to kind of, when I was thinking about what I wanted to discuss today, was that was one of the major things that I wanted to talk about, is just that the way that you carry yourself, the way that you present yourself. I mean, you see me, for instance, my hair is nice. I've got a nice shirt on, and I don't show up in a t-shirt. When I was, again, going back to the way I was raised, when I would go for a job interview, I remember my first job at McDonald's. I was 15 years old, and no, it was I think it was 14, 15, something like that. My mom told me, she said, "Go put a shirt and tie
on." Love it.
And every time I ever interviewed for a job, I did the same thing. Whether it was pouring concrete, I showed up for jobs to construction sites in a shirt and tie. And I never was passed up on for any job I ever applied for. I always got every job I ever applied for. They laughed at me when I showed up in a shirt and tie for the construction job, but I got it.
You got the job.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I got the job. And this is no different. Every time you show up to an inspection, it's a job interview, because you're showing up, especially being the new guy. If you're the new guy in the area and you're going to go to a realtors meeting, and then or show up, and like if you're lucky enough and you get somebody that says, "Yeah, I'll give you a shot," and they throw you an inspection, they're going to come there and they're going to see you in your shabby jeans and your t-shirt. They're going to be like, what does this guy have to offer? He's no different than probably the other guy that I'm using. And he might have something in your tool bag like Spectora, which is great. But I'll tell you what, if you want to be successful, change the way that you change your presentation. Be the guy that shows up looking sharp. I mean, I have people that joke about me because I will come out looking like this from an attic, from a crawl space. I like to look nice. I've always been that way. I don't care how dirty I am. I like to look nice. And I'm not afraid to get dirty either. I go in every crawl space. I go in every attic as far as I possibly can. I mean, my hair constantly, people are always like, "Hey, you got stuff in your hair." I'm like, that's standard issue. Like, I got cobwebs or whatever. It doesn't matter. I look sharp. When I come out of a crawl space, my shirts, I chose these shirts specifically. They breathe well. They look really good. And even so I come out of a crawl space and these shirts will be filthy, but I got a microfiber towel off. I will come out and I'll clean myself up so that I'm walking around the house and I look like I know what I'm doing. I look like a professional. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a electrician. There's nothing wrong with those guys. I have nothing wrong with them. We need them. We have to have them. They are just as vital as we are, but we're viewed differently, and at least we should be. And so that for me was one key thing that I wanted to point out, because I see a lot of guys, that show up in a t-shirt or they show up in jeans, and that's fine. It is what it is. But I think if you want to take it to a next level, and I think, kind of following in suit with, what Spectora has done for the inspection industry, shaking that up and raising the bar. That's what I want to do for this industry as well, is raise the bar and say, okay, here's what you think inspector is, show you what we can be, what we should be. So it's just a different level of professionalism that I think can be communicated. So,
and you're living proof of the benefits of it, because for one, as an ex-agent, agents do care about appearance. Like that's part
absolutely.
of what they do. That's why half of them drive Benzes or Lexuses. They dress up every time they're showing a house. That resonates with them. So I think inspectors, everyone should be going back to the drawing board and reevaluating their presentation. I think you worded it best. It's a job interview every inspection. That might be the name of this episode, actually. That's such a good line. Did you just make that up?
I did.
That's pretty good.
No, I really believe that with everything in me. Every time I meet a client or a new agent, so yesterday I did a house. I think it was actually the biggest. Hold on. I think this is the largest house I've done. It was 8,200 square feet, $6 million. Beautiful place. Am I lagging?
A little bit. You're just frozen, but your audio's still good.
So I was there, and I got this from an agent that's never used me before. Mm-hmm. She called me up and she said, "Hey, I saw your report on on another house that I was selling, and my other home inspector is getting complacent," or that was her words.
Wow.
And, so I'm looking for somebody new. And she said, "I liked your report. I've heard nothing but good things about you. And so I want to give you a shot on a $6 million house." I was like, all right, let's do this,
That's amazing.
It was so cool. So anyways, she shows up, and what was funny was, you saying agents care about appearance. Mm-hmm. She shows up and she hasn't even put her makeup on yet. And she says, "Oh, excuse me, I'm going to put my makeup on in the kitchen. Hope that's okay." All right. Whatever. So anyways, but it was like, the listing agent shows up, and she comes and I've done a few inspections for her as well. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this exact thing about presentation and what that communicates to everybody involved. Am I still frozen?
Yeah, I'm going to stop the video real quick and restart it and just see how that goes. 1 second. Can you stop your video and restart it?
Yeah, sorry.
Cool.
There we go. So this other agent, the listing agent, she's been around for a long time, and she sells houses like this quite frequently. And we were talking, and she goes, "I just want to let you know that you've developed a very good reputation." And like, for me, I was like, that was a cool to have. I was like, kind of soaked it up for a second. I was like, "Thank you. Like, that's really great. Thank you for telling me that. That's really great to hear." It's like, you'll have those days where you nobody's calling,
right?
And you're like, "Oh my God, everybody hates me." And then you have those stuff where an agent, an agent that is very well respected, is not she's not a newbie. She's been around for a long time. And for her to say, "Hey, you have a really good reputation," that meant a lot to me. And so, it just showed me, like, all this stuff, all these little details, like, that I've focused on and put the effort into the tiny stuff.
Yeah.
It's paying off. It's not just having a great report, which is super important, but it's the little things that are going to set you apart. It's the little things that are going to like just kind of push you up above the competition. That like just dressing sharp and presenting yourself well, communicating well, making people feel comfortable with you and your personality. I mean, that a lot of that stuff does not come naturally to everybody. It probably does me more so just because of the life that I've had,
Mm-hmm.
and the industries that I've been a part of and the things that I've had to become good at in order to survive. But not everybody's walked my path. And so, but you can do it. It just takes work. It takes you making a decision that I want to, I really want to excel at this, and I really want to go to the next level. And you have to hone your people skills.
Yep.
Like, period. So,
And I'll tell people, when in doubt, ask questions, be curious.
yeah.
That's something you can always do, and it doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to have any special knowledge. So when in doubt,
Right.
ask questions and actually listen to people. Agents love talking, right? Agents love talking about themselves. Like, ask them anything. First of all, I love hearing that the report was noticed, of course. So that's awesome. But like you said, if you didn't do all those other little things, it wouldn't have mattered. She probably wouldn't have called you. But what a combination of everything that just results in, boom, here's $6 million house and maybe an agent for life.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of my, I really, when I came into this and I started this, I think the strategy, when you're starting a business, you try to strategize and figure out, if I do this, these things I'm going to do first. These are my goals. I set a goal that I wanted to be doing 8 to 10 inspections a week within 4 months. That's a pretty lofty goal. I mean, you guys here, plus if you're in any of the Facebook groups for inspectors, there's guys that are in there all the time, that they're happy if they're getting 10, 15 a month.
Right. That's part of the problem, is that they're on Facebook all the time, instead of going out and marketing. It's like, come on.
That's another conversation.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, and I'm not gloating in any of this. I feel extremely fortunate, but I do also recognize that it took a lot of work. It took a lot of intentionality on it's like, okay, just game planning. What were my goals? What do I want? What was it going to take to achieve those goals? And obviously, in order to achieve a goal like 8 to 10 inspections a week within 4 months, that was going to require getting the phone to ring. And that's a really difficult thing to accomplish when you're starting out. So, and my goal was to not only not be the guy that came in and be cheap, get work because I'm cheap, or be the guy that really farmed for the new agents, that were like just starting out and super excited, and there's nothing wrong with that. But those are not the people, because I don't want to build a company that fizzles out if the market gets tough.
Right.
And the way that you're going to last, and the way you're going to keep going, is to be tied in with agents that have been around for 30 years, right? They've been through 2 and 3 recessions already. They're still around. They're still doing well. And I want to be aligned with those guys.
Yep.
That was my goal, is to quickly, as quick as I can, people. And I've been extremely successful at that. And I think a large part of that plays into the little things, the little details like presentation. For instance, the agent, the listing agent on that house yesterday. Now I guarantee you, she would never show up to a house without her makeup on. This is not saying anything negative about the other one, but that's not her general level of property sale. I'll just say that. Whereas the other lady and several other agents that I work with, they show up and they're dressed to the nines, right? They show up and they look the part.
Yep.
And that's what I want to do. I want to position my company as this is my next goal. This is the thing I'm pushing for right now. I want my company to be positioned as a premier inspection firm. So that's like the tagline that I'm starting to put out there is we are a premier inspection firm. And
Love that
so
word.
I want, you know, I want to be doing these types of houses all the time. And so, but don't take that to think that I will not take money for a trailer. I will. You offer me money, I will take it.
Yep.
So, that's the thing. But it's all about, there's so many dynamics that go into being successful. And I don't even necessarily count myself in that group yet, but I listen to a lot of guys, that are way deeper into this than I am, and soak in any kind of information that I can. I'm listening to podcasts and audiobooks all day while I'm inspecting, by Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek and it's another guy that I was listening to the other day. I can't remember his name. Shoot. But, good, just guys like that.
Yeah.
Guys,
growth mindset.
Yes. They've already gotten there. They've gotten where I want to get to.
Yep.
And, so, feeding yourself that stuff, never thinking that you've arrived. So that's really all of those things, those little details is what makes the big picture of a guy who's, not even 2 full years in and is really close to crossing 1,000 inspection threshold, which is pretty phenomenal. I mean, and I look at it in awe like everybody else does.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'm like, I tell my wife all the time, like, holy crap. Do you realize what has happened? Like, this is just crazy.
Yeah. It's probably flown by because you're probably in the moment, you're executing, you're doing the day-to-day. Some of what you're saying reminds me, next week, actually, my interview with Joey Donofrio is going to be out, and you have a lot of the makings of him, 15, 16 inspector firm in Virginia. He's always learning and he's never satisfied. And he's always trying to find ways to find the next level up. Yeah. And I'll have to connect you guys if you haven't already. I think you guys would get along.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Really well. You mentioned getting the phone to ring. What did you do in that first week when you were new? We'll rewind back real quick. What did you do to get the phone to ring?
The first things I did, I'm a people person. The thing that I did, I would call up I'd call up the offices, and I would talk to obviously you're going to get the receptionist first, or the agent that's working the front desk, right? and I would research who the broker was first. I'd say, who's the broker of this office? So I would find out who that was, and I would call the office. And this is actually something I learned from, I think it was Simon Sinek, actually, who he said, don't call up and say, hey, can I speak to who's in charge? Know who's in charge. So that way, when you call it's going to register in their brain that, they must already know each other.
I like it.
You know what I mean? So they're not going to be the roadblock. They're going to be the connector at that point, because you've already they're going to assume that you know the person because you asked for them by name.
Love that.
So I would find out who the broker was, and I would call the office and I'd say, hey, this is Daylan with Sentry Inspecting. And hey, can I talk to, whoever the broker was? And they'd be like, oh, are they expecting you? I'd say, no, but I'm just trying to reconnect with them about, doing an office meeting. And they'd be like, oh, okay. So then they would patch me through their voicemail, or I would talk to them. And then on the phone, and I would say, hey, this is Daylan with Sentry. And I would not lie and say, I would just say, hey, I'm a new guy in the area. I didn't say that I'm a new inspector.
Right.
I just said I'm a new guy in the area.
Big difference. Yep.
Yeah, big difference as far as it's all about communication, right? Like, it's not lying. I'm very adamant about not lying. I tell because I have another inspector now as well. like, dude, be honest 100% of the time, even when it's hard. But anyway, so I would say I'm a new guy in the area, and you know, I have a unique skill set, and I have a unique way that I do things, and I think it would be very beneficial for you and your agents. And so all I'm asking is that I'd be, just give me a few minutes before your next meeting, and just to kind of share what I bring to the table. Be confident in what you're saying. Believe it. If you don't believe what you're trying, if you don't believe in what you're selling, and so that's what I would do. I would say, you know, I know that I have something to offer you that you don't have yet and that you need. And so I would just go, and then we would set up that, oh, you know, they'd say, oh, okay, yeah, we're having a meeting next week or next month. And I would schedule it with them. So then we get in the schedule. I'd show up, and I have a white version of this shirt, looks clean, and I look sharp, and I would have my laptop with me. And so what I would do is I'd pull up the Spectora website. I'd pull up my report, and then I'd kind of give them a spiel. And one of the biggest, I think, mistakes a lot of people do when they're making a presentation at an office is you come in and you try to be the expert right off the bat, and you're like, hey, I'm awesome, and this is why you should use me, because I'm awesome. And people are going to be like, what makes you more awesome than the other 20 awesome guys that are around here? It's not about that. If you, and I was telling this to the guy that I was speaking with last night, and is that when you go into an office or you make a presentation, it's about communicating what you're doing that's going to be a benefit to them. Like, how am I making your life better? It's not why you're going to give me all this work. It's what processes do I have, or what things do I have that are going to improve your quality of life and your client's quality of life. And if you're just a good inspector with a decent report, like I said, you'll probably get a few inspections a week, and that'll, if you're happy with that, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all about what your ambition is. So my ambition's pretty big, and it always has been. And so that's, so I just had to present myself in a manner that was in line with the ambition that I have. And so being confident, communicating what you're doing is how it's beneficial to the person that you're selling to, highlighting the need, right? You want to highlight what the need is too, because they might not even know that they have a need. I mean, I would kind of start off a meeting by saying, hey guys, I'm Daylan, this is blah, blah, blah. And I'd kind of give them a little bit of background, and then I'd say, so real quick, what is the one thing that we're all spending continually, and no matter how hard we work, we can never get any of it back? And everybody automatically knows time, right? You're like, oh, time. And so you're like, okay, well, my whole goal is to give you back as much time as I possibly can. The way that I do that is by being available to your clients, by giving you a report that's easy to read, it's easy to understand, and I format my report in such a way that it's fun to look at. It's fun to see.
Imagine that, the word fun in home inspection report, like who
right.
Knew?
Just kind of communicating those things to the agents. Well, now you've got like, oh my gosh, wow, this guy's different. He's on my side. And I know that's like a sturdy thing in the inspection community, is being aligned with your agents and being a team. I think that's bull. I'll be honest with that. I think that's crap. You are a team, and if you're like one of those guys that looks at agents as idiots, and that they're in your way, like I just think that's silly. I really do. I mean, and if you're a new guy with that attitude,
Forget about it.
good luck. Good luck.
Forget about it.
They're, you know, the agent's a client too. And I want relationships with them, you know, and I trust me, my client comes first, period. But, you know, we all know that a large portion, some more than others, different markets, you know, are going to be different for each inspector. But a large portion of our inspections are going to come from that referral, from those relationships that you build with the agents. And so, you know, if you make their life easier, they're going to make your life easier too. And they're going to have your back when you have a client that comes and says, oh, well, this guy, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to be like, no way, man.
Yes.
I've worked with this guy on 20 deals now, and he's never done anything like that. I've had that happen. I've had it where, you know, like the clients come at me and said, he's not communicating with me. And the agent was like, trust me, Daylan always answers his phone.
Yeah.
He always, you know, answers if you text him or call him or whatever. Like they've had my back when a client has, you know, tried to pull some shenanigans. And that's what I would do the same for them.
I love this. And for the experienced inspectors, I think this should make them look in the mirror for the ones that do make comments like that, because I think the very approach you have to that team makes it, they probably react to information better when something's not ideal. So when you tell an agent about this or that or the report, they feel like you're still, you know, you're part of the team. So they handle it better. So it's only helping your own cause. So like, I don't get the ones that really talk disparagingly about the agents, because it only helps. It makes your life easier and everyone's.
Well, just like any profession, I mean, there's going to be good and bad in everything. There's bad home inspectors. There's bad agents, no doubt. And you know, luckily I'm married to a good one. So
right.
And I'm not just saying that because we're on video.
Yeah, she won't watch this anyway.
Right.
I have a funny story about you and confidence. So I still vividly remember our first conversation, and you spoke like you were in the business for 5 or 10 years. And I just remember thinking at the time, I'm like, this guy knows what the hell he wants. And he's like new, but this guy speaks and conducts himself in a way that is so certain. That, you know, and at the time we were new as well. And so it was like, all right, we're on the same wavelength here. Like, let's do this. Like, you know what you need. And that's the kind of confidence I think everyone can have. You just have to practice it.
You have to practice it. Yeah. Absolutely. It does. This was not me. I don't know, maybe even 5-6 years ago. I mean, it's been a progression, but it's been something that I've had to really work at, is to get better at it, and to commit to like putting myself in uncomfortable situations.
Right.
I think comfort is like enemy number one. If I'm comfortable, I'm not doing anything. You know, every now and again, I got to do something that really just like is crazy, like go skydiving, or I got my motorcycle license a couple weekends ago.
Nice.
I'm on the hunt for a bike. Like I have to have something that makes me uncomfortable, or you know, just like challenges that. Otherwise I go crazy. I got to have danger.
Yeah. I love the way Gary Sloan, I was talking to Gary Sloan the other day, and he said there's a certain breed of shark that if it doesn't keep swimming, it just dies. And it's like, that's a good mentality of like,
no doubt, man. You have to, it's like, and if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, like it's in you, you like,
yeah.
I've talked about this with so many people. Be a business owner. It's not for everybody. And that's not wrong. Not everybody is cut out to do it. Everybody thinks it's so easy, and that, oh man, I'm making the big bucks and I'm doing all this. Dude, I'm the guy who's up till 2 a.m. all the time, figuring out like new processes or new things that I can do to set myself apart or change. Like I'll be, I can't tell you how many times I've changed my report format because I'll be like, from where I started to now, it's like not even close.
Yeah.
And I think I've revamped the entire thing probably 3 or 4 times. And the guys that have built a structure for their report know how much freaking work that is. And so, and to do it 3 and 4 times, like, because I want to always be improving. And so I'll be out there like doing an inspection and I'll be, tapping around in my app. And then all of a sudden I'm like, something will hit me. I'll be like, oh, that'll be way better. Back to the freaking drawing board.
Yep.
I know that, all it does is calculate to, another 100 hours worth of rework and everything. No big deal. But if you're an entrepreneur, you want that. Like you've got to have some sort of a craving for that
improvement, that process.
Yeah.
I want to highlight what you said when you were speaking to agents. You actually drilled down into the pain point or the benefit. I think inspectors get in the door, they do a presentation, but they don't speak specifically to what that point is of why the agent should care. And I think that's worth highlighting of just, okay, are you giving them time, money, a good feeling? Are you making them laugh? Like, what is the 5, one of 5 things that you're going to give them? But yeah, I think every inspector can learn from that of like, find the problem and find a solution.
Don't just show up with donuts. It's a good thing. Like, but realistically, I'm going to say out of all the office meetings that I did, I would show up with, like some muffins or something. I didn't just show up with a box of donuts. I'd show up with something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
I'm going to say probably like 3 or 4 people actually went in there and took they don't want it.
And I think I read a stat. The average realtor is a 60 or 55 to 65-year-old woman. And so it's like people are being more health conscious nowadays. So it's just like, think outside the box. Like, well, fruit, can it be?
Are those gluten free?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you might, if you go to Sprouts or Whole Foods, if that's your differentiator of saying, hey, I've thought about everyone's dietary restrictions or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Just be thoughtful, be the guy that's, that you're going in there you're going there. It's a job interview. You're going in there and you're going in there to build relationships, right? And would you show up to a party with people that you were like, if you were going to show up to a party and there was like a group of people that you really wanted to get into their group, like, whether they be, you're going to go to a party and Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Tony Robbins, and Gary Vaynerchuk. They're all going to be there, right?
And Kevin Wagstaff. Yeah, they're all going to be there.
Kevin Wagstaff. And, and it's like, he's got his hair down. He's in his element. And you're like, dude, I got to get in with this group. You're not going to show up, and looking all shabby and just going like, hey guys, what's going on, man? And you're going to be on your A game. And that's what you have to be doing. Come up with a format for what you want to say and practice it. Talk to your wife, talk to your kids. Kids are great because they'll ask you questions and like totally throw you off your game, which is perfect because agents are going to do the same thing.
Yes.
You're the guy that they want to trip you up. They want to find out if you know what you're talking about. It's like talking about phenomenal agents.
Hey,
right there. The Miss Whitney. But it's not that they're not trying to be mean, but they want to know, like, do you know your stuff? And are you confident in what you are wanting to sell to them? Because they want to be aligned with the right person because they understand that you you're the glue in that whole thing. You know, a home inspector is the guy who comes in and is either going to make or break this deal. And it's not about making or breaking the deal. I tell everybody when an agent's like, you know, they'll be like, hey, go easy on this one, you know, joking around or whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to tell you what the house tells me. That's all. That's my job. I'm the house whisperer.
Yep.
You know, and so I'm just going to communicate that. But you're also the guy who's going to be able to, you know, if you're the guy that says, you know, gets done with the inspection and everything looks good and you hit publish and you're like, peace out, I'm out, you know, thanks for my $300. That's not going to fly. You got to be able to call up the client or when the client shows up for a walkthrough and say, okay, look, I've got, you know, you've got some settling cracks going on here. I know it looks really scary. But from my point of view, you know, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, you know what? There's some settling cracks going on at the corner of this door, but I'm looking on both sides. It's only on one side. It looks like maybe, you know, it's probably been there for a while. You know, I'm judging based on age of home. Like you're taking in all this information and then you got to communicate that and pass it on to the client in a way that they can digest it, because everything about this whole thing is scary. And so you're the calm in the storm. If there is a piece to be had, you know, I mean, sometimes you get the house that you're like, hey man, here's your report and a gallon of gas and a book of matches. Like that's all I got. but you know what, for the most part, my favorite line to tell a client is, especially on the ones that are rough, they'll say, well, you know, cause they're always going to be like, look at you like, I don't know what to do. And I'll say, look, anything can be fixed. What it really boils down to is, are you the one that wants to take on this project and be the one to repair it? That's what it all boils down to. Anything can be fixed. You can throw enough money to fix up an absolute nightmare. And it all boils down to bringing that all into perspective and saying, look, it's okay. I know it looks really bad, but you bring in the right people, you could fix this place up and make a sweet house.
Yeah. Are
you the one that wants to do that? And I've said that to so many clients, especially like first-time home buyers, man. They're like, because they have no idea. They've never been through this process, and you are their spirit guide, right? And so, you know, and you say something like that to them, and they're like, and it kind of just like brings them back in to where they're not freaking out, and then they can look at the report in a different light. So it's just simple things like that. Working on your communication skills, practicing, you know, like your delivery. It's not about catering to agents and saving deals. It's about being a nice guy, like being a guy that really cares about not the deal, but about the people involved in the deal, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this house isn't for them. I don't know. I try to inspect every house as though I was purchasing it, and communicate with the client how I would like somebody to communicate with me. And so, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a nice guy.
Yeah. And you put things in context. I think you've given some great examples of that language and kind of the tone of empathy. You know, that's not practiced enough and probably not a normal skill set of a home inspector.
I would tell agents, and I would tell clients too, when I first started, that I had developed the plain English inspection.
Ooh, that's good.
And I said, you're not going to get a report that has paragraphs of explanation as to why something is wrong, and you know, with all this jargon and code and blah blah blah. It's like everything. I try to condense most things into a single sentence if possible. Sometimes maybe a little longer, but easily digestible. And everybody, I was telling this to somebody today, when I'm doing my parallel inspections with other inspectors, almost every single one of them that had been in the game for a long time said, hey man, don't sweat your report. Nobody ever reads it anyway. And I was like, why am I making this then?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just tell them what's wrong? Why am I, so like, if they're not going to read it, like, and
What?
that's not a good place for anybody.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm the kind of guy, like, and that's what I do. I'm like, I try to figure out things. I'm like, okay, well, if they're not reading it, what can I do to make them read it?
Yes. Oh.
So I was one thing I thought was like, well, I wanted to make it something that they can understand first thing, and the other part about it is when you look at the culture that is now, people, not that it's a good thing, but people don't read. Yeah. It's a lost art. My youngest daughter loves to read. She devours books. Me, not so much. I like audiobooks, right?
Yeah.
Or even simpler, give me a picture book.
Right.
So, but look at where people spend their time. They're spending their time on Instagram. They're spending their time on Facebook. They're spending their time on the internet, on YouTube. Visual. So, going into what I had said earlier about your report formatting, I take an exorbitant amount of photos. And almost every comment that I have in my report, I put a photo with it. Something simple, like I walk into a bedroom, I take my room photo, I turn around, I shut the door, check my lock, check my door, and then I take a picture of the door. Reasons I do all of that. What it communicates to the client is, first thing, he looked at the door. So there's no arguing if they come back later and say, hey, the door didn't work. I'm like, it worked when I was there. There's a photo of it. Now try and argue with me that I did not check it. I took a picture of it.
Right.
The second thing is they get this report with a lot of photos in it, and it automatically triggers in them to do what they do all the time, which is to scroll, to absorb all that info, right?
Yeah.
All these pictures, it's these videos, it's and so all of this stuff, it's just like doing what they do already, which is sit on their phone and look at Facebook and do this. And so that's what my report does for them too. It's lots of photos, it's lots of videos, as little text as I possibly can to put in there to explain what's going on, so that they will digest it. I have probably, based off of like the feedback that I receive, I can pretty safely say I have 85% plus of my clients that say I read the whole report cover to cover. That's pretty unheard of in this industry.
It's unheard of completely.
It really is. And again, it's not bragging. It's what it is it's just facts that, of the things, like, this is what my brain does. I've always been this way, to where I see a problem and I try to solve it. And so, and it worked. It worked this time. I've failed a million times. Like, I've started, I don't know how many businesses, and they haven't gone anywhere. It was just figuring out one that was going to work. And I was able to bring enough solutions to this industry, and in my market specifically, that it worked very well.
I love that your mind went to when you did your parallels and they said, oh, no one's going to read your report. You didn't just accept it, because we are in an industry where guys go into the forums, ask a question, and just take it home as fact. Whereas you said, I wonder why no one's reading it. Let me take a look. And it was probably paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs.
Yeah.
That people tune out.
Yeah.
So the fact that you actually said, okay, how can I do this better? And what does a modern audience consume? That's the exact approach we took with Spectora. Was like, okay, this has to be digestible for humans.
That's what sold me. 100% what sold me on your product was I looked at literally every other product out there, and I stumbled across your app in the App Store. I was doing my parallels. I was staying with my dad, because I had to do all my stuff down in Phoenix. I was staying with him, and I was sitting on. I remember it vividly. I was going through. I was downloading everybody's apps, and I just typed in. I typed in inspection, I think, in the app store, and you popped up. And I opened up I downloaded, opened up the app, and I was like, whoa. And then I jumped on your website, and I'm like, hey. I looked at the report, and I'm like, dude, this is like where I want to be, because this is what this flows with what I'm after. I want to have something that's current, something that's modern. And I think I told you when we first spoke, I was looking at building my own software.
Right.
Because there was nothing out there that I thought was worth a crap. As far as what the current standards are that we're trained. I mean, everything around us is training us what to expect. And I think Spectora filled a gap that was needed as far as, bringing, just raising that bar again as to, meeting current standards. We're trained through all of this stuff to have an expectation of what kind of media we consume. And I look at a report as a form of media.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Thank you for the shout out. How much more time do you have? I want to be respectful of your time.
As much as I need. I'm good, man.
All right.
Switch so I can have power on my outlet over here. Hold on.
Again, you're so mobile. I love it. So we saw a kid, we saw a dog, saw the wife get home. Let's do a little piece on work-life balance, because you're a grinder. Like after knowing you for the time we've known each other, you grind and you work. You'll run through walls day after day if it means succeeding and growing the business. So talk a little bit about how you managed that kind of work-life balance, if you had it. I mean, I'm a startup owner myself, so it's like sometimes you don't have that balance. And it's some conversations with the spouse, the kids, like, yeah, what's some of that sacrifice that it took to get where you're at?
Well, my thing, I mean, my family comes first. And so, but I also have a problem saying no. If you are it's kind of a joke at this point. Like, if you offer me money, I'll probably do it. if it makes sense to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the time it's going to take me to do that, and the dollars you're offering me, if they match up, I'm probably going to say yes. Now, obviously starting this off, man, if you, again, it's all, your actions have to meet your ambition. And if your ambition is small, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's who you are, great. So whatever your ambition is, have your actions match that. And my ambitions are big. They always have been. And so I knew that was going to require a significant commitment of time. Luckily, my wife, being an agent, she gets that because she does the same thing, right? Agents are 24/7.
Yeah.
This whole business is 24/7. And if you're not willing to commit to that, if you're not willing to buy into that, like, you're going to have a rough go, because you're going to have agents and clients calling. I had a client call me at 5:00 in the morning the other day. Granted, I did not answer it, but it still happens. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be talking to people at 10:00 at night.
Sometimes. Yeah. I think we talked maybe one time at 10:00 at night.
Yeah. And so it just depends on how hungry you are. I'm very hungry. And so I am the guy that, like, things are kind of meeting a balance at this point. But before I had my other inspector, dude, I was killing myself to do that many inspections in a year. Takes as a single guy, takes a lot of work. I remember, what was it? So our busy season is typically between, right, like now and March, April.
Mm-hmm.
And so last January, I think, or this January, there was a stretch where I worked 20 days straight. And they were inspections that was 2 and 3 a day. But the reason that I was willing to do that is because I have a philosophy that if you're the guy that says yes, that's going to beat out the guy who says no. And so I'd rather be starting out, if you're the guy that's like, you get an agent that calls you, you're going to be the backup guy for a little while. And so if their number one says, hey, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, you get the phone call as the number two, and you're like, and they're like, hey, I need this done on a Saturday. And you're like, oh man, I don't want to work on a weekend. Get out of here. They're not going to call you back.
That's not the hunger.
Getting that second phone call is going to take 10 times the work as it does to get the first one. And so I committed to being the guy that says yes. And I committed to being the guy that if you called me, I'm going to figure it out.
Love it.
So, I mean, I've had days where I did 4 inspections in a day because the work was there.
Yeah.
The work was there. So if you're like, hey, I want to start a business, and people are willing to give you a job, like you better be the guy that says yes, not the guy that says no, or is like, and trust me, when I go out of my way for somebody, I don't but I let them know, like, hey, oh yeah, I'll get it done. I'm going to be missing like something important.
Yeah.
You want them to understand like this relationship is important to me.
Yeah. That's with verbalizing. You got to verbalize it.
It's not about making them feel guilty. It's just about confidently saying like, hey, this is important to me. You and what we've got going on is important. And I want you to know that working with you is a priority. And I promise you, if you start that in the beginning, if you go out that way, and you just burn both ends of the candle in the beginning, I'm almost 2 years in now, and the agents that would not wait for me before will wait for me now. I like, and I'm not talking about, like I said earlier, I'm not talking about new agents. I'm talking about agents that have been here forever, and they're the big dogs.
Yeah.
And when they I can think of one agent in particular. Everybody knows her. She's a big deal. Her and her partner. I did a couple of deals they were on. They liked what I had going on. And so their transaction coordinator would call me. She'd call me all the time. And I was always too busy. So finally there was this one day, and I was every time. And I'd say, this is when I can do it. Nope, not going to wait. Find somebody else. I was like, okay. So finally this one day she calls me and I was just like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore. She goes, and so I said, here's the day I can do it. She goes, nope. I said, hold on, give me 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes and I will make something happen. And she goes, no, I don't want to put you out. I don't want to inconvenience you. I said, no, give me 10 minutes. And so she goes, okay. So I took 10 minutes. I made like 3 or 4 phone calls and I rearranged like two other inspections and I made a whole. I am their guy now. And I think in the last, I want to say in the last, it's probably in 8 months that I've been their guy. So this was it was about 8 months ago. So in 8 months, I've probably done 20 deals for them.
Wow.
I was like, I said, I like, it finally registered in my thick skull that we're going around in this freaking circle. Somebody's got to change something. And I'm like, I need 10 minutes. I will make this. I am not saying, I am not getting passed up on again.
That's like a defining moment. That's so cool. That's such a cool story because you just found a way. You said, screw it, I'm going to find a way.
You got to be a problem solver, man.
Oh, I love that. That's some inspiring shit right there. I like it.
I tell that to when you, because it's so easy to get worked up in this whole transaction and see all of, you get the house that's like turns into a disaster or whatever. And everybody gets in a tizzy. And it's like, somebody's got to be the one who brings some peace into this situation and say, okay, we've got some problems, no doubt. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to make it work, or let's figure out what needs to happen in order to make this deal go through. One of the things I was because this guy I spoke with last night, he called me kind of specifically about termites, and so he was kind of going over what his dilemma is in his market. And I said, well, something that I do in my market. So, if you do termite inspection, that if it's a VA loan, then the buyer is not supposed to pay for the termite inspection. And so, I had agents that would be like, they would either, want me to create a separate invoice for the termite, or they would just use a separate termite company in order to keep things simple. Well, I don't want to create a separate invoice because that's just more work for me. And I definitely don't want to lose $60 because on an inspection because they're going to somebody else to do the termite. So I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? And I said, so finally one time I had the lender called me because they wanted that invoice. And I said, well, what if, I said the invoice is broken up. It's got a line item on there. It says, home inspection, termite inspection. And I said, can't we just have this be where they pay, the buyer pays for it, and then you guys reimburse them that $60 at closing? Like, then the seller is technically paying for it, but it keeps everything simple where the buyer just pays one fee and then they get their money back.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that works. And I was like, okay. So ever since then, that's what I do when the agent's like, oh, well, it's a VA loan, so we can't, we can't have the buyer pay for it. I'm like, no.
Pay for it.
We do. And I've had agents like, no, that won't work. And I'm like, trust me, I've done hundreds of these at this point. Give it a shot. Just go tell the lender and tell me come back to me and let me know what they say. Every single time. Well, I said that to this guy. I said, this is what I do. It might be worth a shot. I know it's not the normal, because he was saying the seller generally pays in his area, but he's trying to kind of keep things streamlined and keep get it to where he gets paid for the termite inspection. I said, we'll try that. He goes, that's a great idea. So you just got to be the guy that's able to think outside the box, and think up a solution. I mean, for everything, if that you possibly can.
Yeah, that's got to be such a huge takeaway for everyone listening to this, of like creativity. Like, you think for yourself, like, you know what I mean? Like, you think of your own solutions and you think of ways to do things better. Whereas so many in this industry just look to the next guy and say, well, what are you doing? I'm going to just do that. But you're getting outside of the box all the time, and that's out of the comfort zone.
And that's who I am. I mean, and not everybody is like that, and that's fine. But that's why guys who should help. It's like I love like this. That's
what we're doing. Yeah,
I really enjoy this, and and I hope that as many people watch this. I mean, there's going to be guys that say that guy's a dork, and that's fine. But there's going to be the guys that are going to email me or call me and say, dude, like, I really appreciate what you said. And they're going to take something out of this video, whether it's one thing or 5 things, and they're going to go into their market and freaking destroy everybody else.
Yes.
Because they did something different. And And, they may not do it exactly like I do it. They might put their own spin on it, which is great. It's not about this isn't about me. Doing this video is about me. I could care less. I'm doing fantastic without making a video. I really like do want to do this. And like when you and I talk about doing these videos, and like, I'm like, man, let's do as many as we possibly can.
Yes.
Because, I really like to help people. I really like to, don't come in my market and do what I'm doing and try and steal my business, because I would bring that wrath down upon you. But go take some of this stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Go into your market, and, across the country, way far away from me.
Yeah.
And freaking put the hurt on somebody who's like
complacent.
And you know what? And I don't say that disrespectfully about the guy who's getting beat up on, but I have a philosophy, and I've had this since I started this. When I was speaking with other people and friends of mine, is that in any business, it's evolve or die. If you start a company, somebody comes into your area, sees what you're doing works, maybe copies it, maybe does it better. I don't know. But if you sit back and you get mad because they're taking your business and just do about it, and then you go out of business, that's your fault, not theirs. Correct. You have an opportunity to evolve or die. And I promise you, if somebody were to put some of these things into action against me, I'm going to find a way to do it better.
You'll level up. You're going to do, there's things in the community you could do. There's sponsors, there's events, there's always ways to level up.
There's always ways to do something more or something better. And at the end of the day, though, there's enough work out there for all of us. I'm not out there to beat up on anybody. I'm not out there to take food off of anybody else's table. That's not my goal. I use the word destroy mostly in jest.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, my goal is to be, it's like my lofty goal is to be statewide in 5 years. I don't know if that may or may not happen, but that's my goal. And I'm going to do whatever I can to try and reach that goal that I've set for myself. And I encourage anybody else, if you're starting a business, if you're starting a home inspection business, have a realistic goal. You set a realistic goal, and then you set a lofty goal. Set a realistic goal that you're like, if I do X, Y, Z, there really is no reason I should fail at this. And then set your lofty goal that, and that was what I knew what the normal was in this business, that, it takes some time.
Yeah.
But the 8 to 10 inspections a week in 4 months was my lofty goal. That was my goal, that I'm like, you know what, if I reach this, that's going to be freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to be happy with 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But I met my lofty goal because I put in the work.
Yeah.
I took all of these things, all of these little details that I just put in place. The little things make up this big picture, which is Sentry Inspecting. And I imagine the same thing, the same scenario as what happened with Spectora. It was like you and Mike probably sat down and said, what the heck are we going to do next? We need to do something. And you guys came upon starting an inspection reporting software. And then you were like, okay, well, what does that even look like? And you started brainstorming, and you started setting mile markers and expectations on yourself. And those things are not going to get accomplished if you just sit back and wait for somebody to call.
Yeah.
You have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. And that's not doing, especially in the beginning, it's not doing Facebook ads and It's not even really making phone calls. Those phone calls need to lead to FaceTime.
Yep.
It has to. If you're not the guy who likes talking to people face to face, you better get comfortable with it. Work at it. You know, because I promise you, it will make your business grow exponentially if you do that.
Love it. And I love that you care to give back. And that's part of what's going to make you a thought leader. That's why you're going to grow and probably dominate the whole state at some points, because you're thinking outside of yourself. And that's part of what we're doing with this podcast, is trying to get information out there, put content out there, and become thought leaders. And you're setting up yourself up really well to do that in that region.
You just have to be intentional with everything. You know, it's like, I mean, even my, so on the first video, you have that picture of my Jeep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm a Jeep freak, period. When the company was starting to do, I was driving a 92 Jetta.
Nice.
And so that was my first inspection vehicle. And so, when everything was kind of rolling and things were going good, I've been yearning for the day when I could buy another Jeep. And so I saw things were going good, and I'm like, okay, even if they don't get any better, I'm doing okay. Like, I'm doing enough business now that this is a pretty decent living. I can afford to get a Jeep. And so I needed a car because my other car is a 92 Jetta. It was not that great. It was not mechanically sound. And I'm like, you can't call people and say, hey man, sorry, I can't do the inspection today. My car's broke.
Right.
So I started hunting, right? And so I started looking for a Jeep, because I told my wife, I said, look, I'm in my car so much. Like, I want to drive what I want to drive. I don't want to get something that is going to bum me out at the end of the day. I want to go outside every day, and when I step out the door, I want to be happy. And that's what that's what Jeeps do for me.
I love it.
So I found this Jeep. I was looking Craigslist and all that stuff, and I came across this Jeep. Orange is my favorite color. And I saw that thing, and so what I did was I snagged the photo off the internet, and I took my logo and I photoshopped it onto the side of it. Exactly how it is now. I put it on that picture, and I said, that's it. And I said, and it wasn't, yes, I love that Jeep, but I said, that thing is going to get me noticed. It's everything. Your entire life you have to eat, breathe, sleep, as little as possible sleep. But you have to freaking be hungry, and everything has to be about this. Every time I open my phone, there's my logo. Everything has to be about this. You have to be focused. I mean, if again, it's your ambition meeting your actions, right? And so if your goal is to be that guy, then you better prepare. Everything has to be intentional. And that Jeep, as much as I love it, was very intentional. I mean, every single person in my area knows that Jeep. I get people all the time. Almost like clients will show up and be like, dude, I've seen your Jeep everywhere. Everybody knows that Jeep.
Love it.
Because it's bright. It's the logo pops and just all that stuff. Like, so
branding, man.
It's branding. Remember last time I had my little coffee cup.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's like everything. It's like, even so, it's like when I put stuff up on Facebook, or I'll boost it. Like, I don't boost it. What kind of, you're almost never, it's like, that's really not going to lead to people getting you inspections, is putting a funny video out there and boosting it.
Yeah.
What it does though is every time they scroll in, they're scrolling on their phone and they come across that ad for Sentry Inspecting, it's all about brand recognition. It's all about them so that someday they're going to buy a house, and their first thing that comes to mind when their realtor says, "Hey, you're buying a house, congratulations. The next step is calling an inspector." And they're going to be like, "Hey, I was on Facebook a while ago and I saw that guy, Sentry Inspecting. He's a dork and he's always in the attic talking about silly things that he finds." The guy they're going to call, right? That's the company they're going to call, is that guy, that Sentry Inspecting guy. And so everything has to be intentional. Everything's got to be have a purpose, and that's like even right down to, you know, like I was saying about having a clean appearance and all that stuff. When I show up to a house, I don't have a cheesy tool bag with crap overflowing all over the place and a beat up, you know, junky ladder and all that stuff. I show up with two things. I walk out, I have a backpack tool bag that everything fits in nice and clean. It looks nice. It presents well to the client. I have one of those collapsible ladders. It's in a case. I've purchased two of those cases now because they get beat up. But it's in a case. Everything looks nice and clean. When I show up to a job, I have myself. I look nice and clean. My tools look sharp and professional. And when I show up, I put my tool bag down in the kitchen. I have a towel that I throw underneath of the dishwasher, and I pull my tool bag out or my tool belt out, strap that thing on, and I'm ready to go. I'm not like unloading all this junk inside the house, trying to find my tools and all. It's all very intentional. My inspector, same way. I bought him the same equipment. He shows up and presents in the same light. He has the same shirts. You know, it's like, I'm not in this to play around and be like, you know, it's there's a HVAC company down in Phoenix that their slogan is don't call a Melvin. And in their commercial, they've got the guy that's got like his pants down around his, you know, like around.
That's Melvin. That's Melvin.
Out. His hat's all sideways, and he's like, "Well, I don't know what the problem is." And then, you know, and then they show up and they're very professional looking and all this stuff. And that's their thing, is don't call a Melvin. Well, in the inspection world, I want to be the antithesis of the Melvin.
I love it. Can you send me links to some of that stuff you mentioned? We'll link to it in the description. We'll show people what
the tools are?
The tools, the ladders, any of that stuff. We'll
get. You know what I'll do is I'll actually create, because you know how you can create those lists in Amazon?
Yeah.
I'll create a list, and I'll shoot you over the link to that whole list, so that way they can.
The Daylan list. People can get inside your head and know what you're getting. I like it. See, that's value. That's stuff people aren't going to get elsewhere. It's just like, what's a young, up-and-coming, successful guy using?
And I use technology to my advantage. You know, it's like I'm always on the hunt for new tools and new ways to, like, you know, like everything, and, you know, little details. I like everything if I'm going to take a picture of something, I want it to make sense, right? So it's like, and I said I take pictures of everything. So my outlet, my receptacle tester, the normal ones show you, they have 3 lights on them, a red and 2 yellows. What the heck does that mean? If it's good, 2 yellows show up? Nobody knows what that means except for us.
Right.
So I'm like, this doesn't make sense to clients. So I found a tester that shows up, it lights up green if it's good and red if it's bad.
Brilliant. Yeah,
everybody knows what green is. Everybody knows. So now, if they see a picture of my receptacle tester in an outlet and it shows green, it's good. My thermometer, my infrared temp gun, the screen, it lights up nice. It looks good in a picture. It's not just a cheesy, you know, little. Yeah. It was $130. It wasn't cheap, but it presents well. It's all about communicating a message of professionalism and ease of understanding. You know, so it's just, everything counts. You can't say, well, this isn't a big deal. Well, it may not be a big deal, but it's going to add up into a big deal.
Right.
It's all those little pieces coming together and working well. And I'm always on the hunt for a better way to do something. It's like, reporting, always wanting to improve that, using technology to your advantage. So like I'm constantly, that's what I love about Amazon. Like I probably abuse their generosity, but like I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, I'm gonna order it. If I don't like it, send it back.
Yeah, you got to use it.
I mean, look, man, trust me, they make enough money off of me.
They're okay. They're doing okay.
All right.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Is there anything you wish I would have asked you, or anything else that we didn't cover?
I think we did pretty good on this one.
Much better.
Had a little bit of a format, which was better. And we touched on a lot of. I got to go kind of deep into some of the topics that I really, I'm really passionate about, because I see a lot of guys in the groups that, and I love to help people, and most people aren't very receptive to it. They're like, well, I've got my way of doing it, and that's fine. And I think a lot of people hear what I have to say because I'm very enthusiastic about it, and it almost comes across as though I'm gloating. And I promise you, that's not it. I'm my hardest critic. I beat myself up constantly. And so I say all of this stuff as an encouragement that if you take even a portion of what I've done and put it to work and build upon it with your own style, with your own flair, and what works for you, I promise you it will drastically improve your game, your business. And I am always available. I love it. As you can tell from watching this video and the last video, and probably every video that we'll do, I enjoy talking. And if you call me, I promise I will answer, even if I'm on a roof, if I'm on a crawl space, if I'm in an attic. Agents know it, man. It's a joke around my area. Like agents will, I've had agents leave me messages when I didn't answer the phone because it's so rare. They left me messages saying, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Because I know that if I didn't answer the phone, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is serious."
And your phone's been ringing, so we may have to get you out of here so you can get back to those people. But
right.
Agents out there, give him a call and test the theory. Test this man out. Where can people find you? What's the best way to reach you, for whether they're inspectors or agents?
Best way to reach me, honestly, I'm terrible with email.
Uh-huh.
That's my weak point for sure. Try to get better at it. It's just not my jam. I love people. I love talking. So call me, text me. If you email me, I will try to get back to you. If you're an agent, absolutely call me.
Yeah.
But if you're an inspector and you're like, dude, I just need 10 minutes of your time, I'll probably take more time of yours than you will of mine.
And I'll link to your Facebook and Instagram in the description as well.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Daylan Whitney. You can look me up, Sentry Inspecting. My website has all that stuff too. My phone number's on there. So I'm here. I'm here. I love to help. So.
Man, you are the man. I know we're gonna end up doing this again. If we ever have Spectora Con, we're gonna have you be a speaker at it.
Spectora Con. That's awesome.
We'll have you speak and do a session or something. So we're gonna make it happen. I'm determined.
Definitely. All right,
man. Thank you so much. Tons of good info.
Very first halfway, anyways.
I love it. I promise next time I will have one in hand.
Okay. Let's do another one, bro.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right, Kevin.